Hey guys, so I've gotten some requests to cover the new Ulcerate record, Cutting the Throat of God. Hate that title, love the font. But this is a band that I've always had kind of a bit of a love hate relationship with. I've followed them since what I believe is their first full length record, the Of Fracture and Failure record, which, as much as I hate any record or song title with the syntax of something and, it usually ends up being a horrible metalcore spattering of bad ideas. That record kind of set the stage for what the band was going to become. And because they have developed in a way that didn't betray the tenets put out on that record, they should be commended for that. But at the same time, their development has been so subtle that they've painted themselves into a bit of a corner. And I've always viewed them as more of a style over substance type of a band. Um, Near the turn of the century, with like Gorguts Obscura record, there was a movement of discordant stuff going on in extreme metal. A lot of it kind of came more from the grindcore spectrum of things. This band used to sit comfortably alongside something like Crowpath, if any of you guys are familiar with them. And as they have developed, they've introduced more and more melody, not in the way that you would think, where it's not like a hummable melody. There's more consonants and more of an understanding of how to use contrast to make the discordant stuff actually have meaning, which again, they should be commended for. But their recorded works have always been very laborious to get through. And I understand that some would say that is the point of the band. The point of the band is to be musically suffocating, emotionally suffocating, to the point where you want a breath of relief. And I understand that. My criticism of this genre, the discordant death metal genre, stuff like Portal and what have you, is that it often undulates in place and doesn't develop. The songs don't tell a story. Not that that has to be what the band has as an end goal. I don't believe that that is their end goal. I think that they want to just present you a soundscape and have it be suffocating. But if you can get that across with one song, why do you need an album? And then why do you need six more albums? That's the problem I have with Ulcerate, is that every song and every record tells the same story. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time with the record before this. People said that it showed them showcasing more of an adventurous palette and being able to use melody in ways to give the songs enough of an identity. But their their style is so exhausting to me that I I gave it a quick listen to a couple songs and then wrote it off as something where I had already gained what the full experience would be from the record. That might have been an ignorant move, but I didn't feel the need to go further. With this record, I actually went through the whole thing. And as I've explained, the band tells its story immediately, and they you do not need the record to be an hour long. You don't need the songs to be 7 minutes long. For what they're trying to do, it is supposed to be a sonic presentation of mood, and I get it. That's been their goal. So I shouldn't go into this band looking for what old school metalheads would think of as riffs. You're not going to really find them here. This is probably the most that I've heard from them as being capable of presenting actual riffs in their narrative, and it works. There are themes that I can pinpoint in the songs for the first time since, I don't know, the last song on the Of Fracture and Failure record has an identifiable riff. Now they're trying to concentrate on that more, but as the band has developed, I feel like they are actually limiting themselves more. And the reason I feel that way is I gave a quick spin of the Everything is Fire record, which people think to be their watermark record. And it is, as much as the band has developed so subtly, there is enough of a difference in how the materials presented, where now the register of the guitar is very, very limited. Like the tonal register that he draws from is essentially the same in every song, every riff in every song. And you're either going to be hearing tremolo picked or drony, but it's still going to be in that upper mid range, more of like where a common guitar solo would sit in a mix. That's the guitar range, and they've relegated the bass guitar to the lower frequencies, where now the bass guitar is providing all of the coloring to the material, and it really does make a difference. After listening to a little bit of Everything Is Fire, there is much more of the low end common to extreme metal, death metal. And then as they've developed, the guitars kind of took more of the higher register, the bass fills out the low. Instead of it being a uniform presence like a lot of death metal is, which is why this band kind of is not really identified as a death metal band to me anymore, or were they ever, I don't really know. But the only real emotional response you get from this material now is because the bass lines will trigger the same kind of like note choices as a Catatonia record or a Migwa record. You know, that like depressive black metal-y, goth metal-y type of note structure, and the guitars over the top are ulcerate guitars, where it's just that kind of like squealing banshee type of undulations that are subtle but are there, and it's more of a texture. It's more of a texture than like an actual identifiable note pattern, but the bass lines will bring out that kind of saccharine emotion you get out of it, while the guitars are just kind of squealing on the surface. And not too many bands do that, and that is their signature, and I will give them credit for that. But that's the end of the story. It's every song does present that in kind of very, very slight shades, where, like I said, the story has been told. You do have every now and again you have a proper build to a climax. You do have identifiable themes, but everything in between is more just like them trying to get there while giving you the sound you come to expect from what the band has presented before. They know what the audience is supposed to expect, and I'm not going to say that they are like going at it from the perspective of I need to give the audience what they want out of me. I don't know. It's not as obvious as other bands that have done that, where you can clearly hear that motive. I think this band is still trying to be unabashedly them, but it's still just very limited. And I think that a lot of the success of the band, and of course, you read the comments, and everybody on their YouTube channel is praising them for putting out the greatest masterpiece in extreme metal history. I think that a lot of the allure of the band is the same as if you're watching, like, I don't know, a movie like Rocky, where there's more money in the bad guy winning. You want the protagonist to succeed, and you want to see the journey of getting them to succeed. And that success is not here yet, but they leave enough breadcrumbs to show you guys that, like, we have what it takes to give you an emotional catharsis, but we're not going to give it to you completely. We're going to make you keep tuning in for 7 fucking records and hoping that it's there. And there are moments here and there where you get close, and I will commend them for that. But for the most part, it's an ulcerate affair. You know what you're getting, and the style is up front. If the drums weren't so ornate, and you just heard what the bass and the guitar were doing, it would be more familiar with, like, I don't know, 90s weirdo, like jangly emo shit like Failure. It's like more of that kind of language instrumentally. And I wouldn't call them a technical death metal band. I think a lot of people refer to them as that. That to me is more of like, I don't know, like what suffocation is, stuff like that. And I know that suffocation is not referred to as that either, but they're way more expressive in their musical vocabulary than what ulcerate is. Ulcerate is very limited. That's their issue, is that they're very, very limited. And it's not just in their note choices or their riff arrangement, it's just in the overall presentation. They know the box they exist comfortably in, and they take the most minimal of risks. And by relegating all of that risk to the bass guitar, it's about as subtle as it gets. And it does give a needed dimension to their music, but while it does provide a more nuanced backdrop, it kind of betrays the tenets of the overall metal presentation, because like I had said, it kind of situates it more firmly in like a gothic emo type of territory. Not that that's bad, but it if it wasn't for the vocals and the drums that are constantly blast beating and giving way to double bass breaks, it doesn't have the similarity with a death metal vocabulary in pretty much any way. I didn't dislike it. It's just not something I'm going to revisit. I got the same amount of catharsis as I did from when I first heard the band in like 2007, and you know that's fine. It's what they want, but I am looking for something more. So that's my thoughts on the record. Thanks for tuning in.